Okay, just started recording. Okay, so first question. Why would the people want to vote for you to be president?
Okay, why would people want to vote for me?
Yeah.
Well, I've been a trustworthy president in the past. I've made sure to open the server every year. I know I've been consistent with timing every year. I run the Discord server. I just think, I feel like I have a big responsibility on my shoulders because since I do pay for the server, I take a lot of pride in it. And I've been here since the beginning, so also I have some experience in server upkeeping and, making sure everyone's happy because that's what it's all about.
Okay. Number two, what would be the first thing that you would do in office?
First thing I do in office, I think I talked about this earlier. I would want to hold our first Senate meeting or, public debate. I think the first one we already talked about would be regarding the walls and, the possible shortening, adding new openings and exits to them, stuff like that, I think that'd be pretty important.
Okay. Number three, what would you say about the walls?
What would I say about the walls? So I know it's a pretty heated topic that it's, it seems like it came out of nowhere. I can definitely see why people, especially, if they're focused on, the aesthetic or the design of the server, why they'd be concerned with them. I personally take the stance that I would want to renovate them, add new exits, openings, designs to it. I would not be in the position where I would like to take them down because I was one of the original four, including Stevie, me, Hank, etc., who built the walls. We'd never used /fill. This was all by hand, so we'd take a lot of pride in, So I just, I think it would be really sad to see something like that go after, 3 years.
Okay. Number four, what would you do for the future of Ozarkia?
Well, the future of Ozarkia, I think after this year starts to wrap up or it starts to wind down, I'm going to start planning on bringing it back next year. But for this year in particular, it's going to be a lot about safety, I think. I think we can start moving away from Tolerant in the rebuilding phase. I've been really happy with how quickly we've gotten that done. So I do completely think we can start expanding outward and, just making some cool new builds. Because that's what it's about.
Yeah. Okay, number five, what would you do about the land outside of the walls?
Outside the wall, so I kind of had a little vision. So I'm not really sure, it might be kind of hard to picture, but if you picture the server in a few years, let's say we do continue building outward, the way I'd like to imagine it is that we have, a ton of buildings outside the walls. We have villages, like statues, monuments, whatever. And then we can look through the walls as almost like the capital or where it all started, almost like a museum, I guess, in a way. I mean, people can still live and build there, but it's more of a historical site. And stuff like that. I want to expand more. I think all that's pretty important.
Okay. Number six, what is your biggest policy right now?
Biggest policy right now, I think creativity really matters. I think, pretty heavily disagree with the people who are super strict with, architectural styles. In terms of, Tolerant, of course, it makes sense because we already have a set theme for that. But I just, it's, like I said, freedom of building. I think it's really, really cool to see how the server shapes over the years and all different build styles. Even if, most people agree it doesn't look great. It's just really cool to see how everyone builds, all the different styles, all the different colors, even if they don't mash well. It is really, really cool seeing 30 different people just chaotically build, and it's fun,
Okay. Number seven, why should people trust you?
Okay, well, yeah, no, that's a good point. I know, especially people who are new to the server, they might not have a lot of trust right off the top of their heads. They might not know me super well. But I was the one when it was just me and Hank. This world used to be called Michael and Hank's World back in 2020. I said, hey, I have a lot of friends. We play Minecraft sometimes. I think we should make a realm. And ever since then, I've been in a position of authority. I have made sure that servers are always promptly reset. They're always started on time. And I have never done any harm to the world. I've never done harm to anyone's builds because, as I talked about a little bit earlier, I do strongly believe everyone's builds do matter. And no one should be in the position where they can take that away.
Okay. Number eight, what makes you more worthy or not worthy, but what is your base comparison against you and your other candidate?
Right. So, I really do appreciate Nico being, Nico running. He has been on this server almost as long as me. He's been through a lot. He's seen a lot. He's built a lot. But I do think when it comes to trustworthiness and experience with the server and seeing it from many points of view and just being really flexible while also, making sure everyone's safe and no destruction happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I might have a bit of an edge just because I've seen more destruction. I've met a lot of people on this server. I know their points of view. I know them in person.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nico does too, of course. That's why he's running. That's why he has a lot of supporters. But I feel like just being a member of this server and being in a position of authority for so long, you really learn to appreciate everyone. And, you're more willing, you have more pressure to take care of the server. So I think that's where it all comes in.
Okay, now these last two questions are kind of what if questions.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9. For instance, if Toleron was nuked, what would be your first action?
Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely, because it's happened before, right?
Yeah,
towards the end of years, but I think we would do a similar procedure. It probably would be different this year if it were to hypothetically happen. Obviously we would try to figure out who did it within reason. We wouldn't be wasting all of our time doing that. We'd figure out who did it. I think we would, pretty swiftly reset the server. Now, keep in mind, there was one time that it got bombed and we completely rebuilt. People took a lot of pride in that. So I think it would be all about the majority vote in terms of what we do in that scenario. Because, this is a democracy, right? It's all up to the people. But I would say my stance moving forward would be making sure we can get back, everything back to normalcy and figuring out what was the cause and who did it.
Okay, last question, number 10. For instance, what if the government was being taken over? How would you protect it?
If the government was being taken over, I don't know if I've ever thought of that, but I think if the government was being taken over, I'm not sure off the top of my head because, let's say I was the president, right?
Uh-huh.
And then we have the Senate, we have the court, all that stuff. I know I'd have a lot of great people to help back me up in that kind of scenario. But we would try to take care of it, quickly, swiftly. We would probably punish the person for trying to take it over. It's kind of a broad question, whether it's like physical, destruction, threat, verbal stuff. But in any of those circumstances, I think it's just about quickly dealing with the issue and trying to figure out why they're doing it in the first place. Because people always have reasons. It's not just going to be random.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.